If we want to improve the world, which of course we should, we have to understand how it is that we do not improve the world. And it's very easy to see and understand. To see and understand ourselves, how the human program works inside of us, how the brain works, how the mind works, how we work, how things happen inside our own mental life, which is a direct result of the human program, which I'm going to talk more about later. That's how to improve the world. There is only one way. Know thyself. It's always the same thing, so it has been repeated until boredom, so we're not going to say that, but we're going to say something more interesting and something more precise and something more true. If we do not understand and see the human program, then we can never improve the world. We can never improve humanity. We can never make world society into a work of art. We can never make global world society a good society. We can never create and make and constitute a mosaic of this world, which is what we should do, and we should be able to do that because it's very easy to do that. But without education of the human being, without education of the human program, without education of the human mind, without education of yourself, which means your brain, how the programs are made in your own brain, how the programs constitute a certain behavior and activity within your neurocircuitry in your own brain and in your nervous system. Without understanding this, we have no chance to improve global world society. We have no chance in making life a work of art, in making humanity a work of art, in making society a work of art. We have no chance in improving ourselves or the world or global world society if we do not understand and see the human program. And this is what the future work of art is all about. The future work of art is to explain, expose, see, investigate, and understand the human program as it is, because we all live inside the human program. We all live inside our own brains, because we all live inside our own consciousness, and how our brain is producing patterns that control us within the consciousness that we are living in. Things do not happen by chance in our mind. Things do not happen by chance in our mental life. They happen as a result of how the brain works. So if we are going to understand how we react, how we feel, how we perceive, how we interpret, most of all, if we are going to see our own interpretation machine, which is the most important thing that a human being can do in this life, to see his own interpretation machine. If we are going to see our own interpretation machine and our own projection machine, if we are going to do that, then there's no way around this simple fact. We have to understand the human program, because we become blind to how our mind and brain works. The most important thing in the 21st century is to understand the human program. This is the artwork of the future. This is the artwork of today. This is the most extremely important artwork that we all can do, that we all can participate in. We have to understand our own brain. We have to understand our own human program, that in which we live, because we live inside the human program. And the human program is that which takes place in the world, and it is that, the human program, that is producing the world as we experience it. We can talk more about that later. But the most important thing is that we can see our own brain and how it works with that in us that we need to find in order to see the brain clearly, how our mind works. Because the mind works in a complete set system. Nothing is by chance. Everything that happens in our mental life is because of the human program. It's because of how the brain works. It's because of how the relationship, the interaction between the brain and the nervous system works. This is what creates the mind. This is what creates mental life. The interaction between our brain and the nervous system. The nervous system is that which makes it possible for us to have any kind of experience at all. So we have to see that which decides how our mental life is working. When we see that, we can avoid to be blind. We don't have to be actors in a game, so to speak. We don't have to be actors acting out that which happens in our own human program. We don't have to be slaves of the reactions in our own brain. We don't have to be slaves and victims of that which happens in our own brains. And we are, the human being, are always victims of how the brain works, whether it's for the good or for the bad, for the pleasant or for the painful. We are always victims of how the brain works. The most successful, enlightened, blissful guru in this world, or whoever it is, the president of the Americas, or whatever it is, they are all, and we are all, victims of how the brain works. So if we want to get out of that condition, we have to recognize that which decides how the brain works. We have to see it for what it is. We have to acknowledge that we live inside a human program so that we can transcend it by our own inner knowledge, by our own inner awareness of how things works mentally. This is how we can nurture Gaia, by educating us, by leading ourselves into the insight that will reduce the inappropriate reactive patterns in our brain that leads to sets of behavior and strategies that we become blind to, that we don't see, so we cannot see that they are not necessary. Many things that we think and do are not necessary at all, but they happen because of the brain. It is produced by the brain. So we have to find that in us that can see how the brain works. We have to become aware of how the human program works. This is an art exhibition. Everything that you do in this life is a performance. If you lift your hand, that's performance art. If you go home and go to bed and you say amen before you go to sleep, that's also not only a form of prayer, but it's also some kind of a performance art. Everything is a performance. This world is a performance. The only justification for the performance of this global world society is that we elevate it and cultivate it into an art product. We have to make the world art, because art should be society. Society should be art. Art could be humanity. Humanity could be art. And how can that happen? It can only happen by our own knowledge and recognition of the human program. This is how we develop. This is how we transcend ourselves. This is how we become superhuman, because we are not anymore slaves and victims of how the human program works. We have knowledge about it. We can see what it is. So this is how we nurture Gaia. We nurture Gaia by finding the place in ourselves of enlightenment, so to speak, by finding the place inside of us that can see and acknowledge that which happens mentally, and which happens mentally because of the activity in the brain. This is very important to understand. Today, art is more or less a practice within a discourse because it's an intellectual game, like more or less everything else, like politics, you could say, like philosophy. Even to some extent, science is not only a language game, but it's a game within certain paradigms that are based on language and thought. And this thought is a pattern that we can call a discourse. So art is also a part of a discourse, and art in itself is a discourse. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of seeing things. Art is a way of seeing things. It's a mindset. Art is a mindset. Art is a way of seeing things. Art is a way of relating to that which we experience. Art is a way of relating to aesthetic phenomena. Art is a way of entering the world of aesthetics, you could say. And the world of aesthetics is constituted, actually, by our own mindset, by our own intention, by our own perspective, by the way that we see things. Art is a way of relating to the world. Art is a way of seeing art with the eyes of the artist. Or art is a mindset that is produced by our intention to see the world as art, or to see any phenomenon as art. Because everything is a performance, everything is a work of art, if we see it as art. It's all up to us. It's a mindset. So art is a mindset, and it's a mindset of relating to that which is produced. Because everything is produced. Art is produced, and even our own relationship to that which we see is produced. Our own mindset is also produced. Our own mindset is produced by how we want to perceive things. We decide how we are going to relate to that which we perceive. So art is a mindset, and it's a mindset that is based on how we want to experience and perceive that which is produced. And everything is produced. And we are going to relate to that which is produced by finding that in us that can see what it is that is produced from the right point, from the right perspective, where we see that which is produced from the point in us that is the enlightened being, so to speak, that in us which can see everything that is produced. This is the way that we nurture Gaia, because we get self-awareness, self-knowledge, we get insight into the human program, and the human program is that which is producing the world. Now, in October and practically November 2023, the world is, of course, at war with itself, so to speak. It's a tragedy that displays itself again and again and again and again and again. Why? Because of the human program, because of the way that we react to how things occur and happen inside our own brains, because of how we react to the phenomena that we perceive, and that which we perceive are produced by the brain, by the human program. This is very important to see. This is how we nurture Gaia. By self-insight, by self-knowledge, by seeing our own brains and our own systems of mind and cognition. We have to see how everything works mentally. Art is everything that is. The world is art. We are art. To perceive the world is art. To understand things is art. To have recognition of something true, or of that which we call true, which of course is just an experience that we call true. Truth is actually just an experience of something that we think or relate to as true. We think of it as true, we relate to it as true, because we have a certain experience. But if you removed the way that the brain recognizes that experience, then truth wouldn't exist. It would all be nature. It would all be space and phenomena occurring in space. But let's come back to the future work of art. The future work of art is you and me. We are the future work of art. Society is the future work of art. Art should be society. Society should be art. Art could be humanity. Humanity could be art. Thank you.